Just over 19 years ago, Insomniac Games had released Ratchet and Clank. And all these years later, the series is still going with the release of Rift Apart on the PlayStation 5. It's kind of crazy to me that despite this game being one of the many PlayStation platformers of its time, it's the only franchise that survived. And I think that's down to how well Insomniac were able to innovate and push the series with each new entry. So how well does the first game in the series hold up? Is it still worth playing? Well, let's find out. Oh, and also on a side note, I'm playing the PAL PS3 port of this game. So while the game now runs in HD widescreen, it is also now very bug-ridden. In simple terms, the Pyroster is now the best gun as invincibility frames are messed up on it and it keeps doing constant spread damage when up close to anyone. I still remember my first time playing this game back on a PS2 demo disc with my dad when I was 2. Just replaying Metropolis and Blackwater City over and over again and adoring every minute of each. I also remember struggling to get through the flood section of Blackwater City and having that stick with me every single time I play this game as if I've got some sort of gaming PTSD and still feel somewhat relieved that I get through it. Now why do I bring this up? Well, I want to stand by saying that this game had the perfect demo, and even before the game had released, Insomniac had already shown off their 2 best levels in the game. These 2 levels clearly showcase the open linear levels of the game, where you can choose which path to take first in the beginning. The gunplay well by giving a variety of different enemy types to shoot at, as well as choosing out very different weaponry to use in the demo at your disposal. The demo shows the importance of gadget collection in earlier levels being used in the gameplay later, and also demonstrates the humor and world building of the game through the side characters you interact with on each planet. Enough with the demo though, let's actually see if the full game is still worth your time. The plot of Ratchet and Clank can be boiled down to a buddy story. Ratchet and Clank start off with a mutual standpoint of each other. Clank is a robot in search of galaxy superhero Captain Quark to warn him of danger, and Ratchet is a hot-headed orphan who just wants to explore the galaxy at his own leisure, but is stranded on a planet alone. The two meet and Clank repairs Ratchet's ship in exchange of finding Captain Quark to stop the evil chairman Drek, causing the two to set off on an action-filled adventure. This sort of story really complements the world building of the game though, as when you meet new people as you visit planets, you really get to see the personalities of Clank and Ratchet, and how different their viewpoints are to begin with, and we see them become closer over the course of the game.
Let's go get some!
No, we must continue our search for Captain Quark.
You're absolutely right.
I am?
Sure! Captain Quark is gonna be sorry he messed with me.
This is not about Captain Quark anymore. There are innocent lives being lost.
Yeah? Well, I'm done with this stupid hero stuff. I got my own agenda now.
Ratchet, this is not like you.
Hey, Tin Can! Where do you think you're going?
The characters we meet on these different planets too are greatly used and make these planets actually feel alive, rather than making the galaxy feel like it's full of enemy arenas. Despite it being the first game in the series, Insomniac were really able to make the gameplay of this first entry very solid. The game's an action platformer with levels, all being different planets, that each have branching paths. These paths make for non-linear level exploration and give the player the choice of where they want to go first, which makes the game feel a lot less restrictive. This is also helped by the game occasionally giving you the choice of which planet you want to fly to first. While not as smooth as future sequels, the core action platforming gameplay is still very solid here. This is also one of the few Ratchet games where the wrench is actually worth using and is a useful attack method with bolts, the game's currency, being more limited than they are in future entries. So you'll be swinging it, hyper-striking, and throwing it around on those smaller enemies you want to save some ammo money on. The game has very responsive movement controls, making the numerous flips, double jumps, wall jumps, and whatever else feel very smooth. The weapons, on the other hand, while still good, do lack the ability to strafe or lock onto enemies while moving early on. This means you'll need to line Ratchet up with any enemy you want to shoot before you get the thruster pack, which is a bit annoying at first, but you get used to it pretty fast. Speaking of the weapons, Ratchet and Clank does have a strong variety of them at your disposal. You've got the blaster, which is a rapid fire pistol, the bomb glove, which is pretty self-explanatory, the Morpho Ray, which turns the person it's fired at into a chicken, the Devastator, which is a rocket launcher sniper and crucial for the final level, and the Decoy Glove that throws out an inflatable Ratchet dummy to distract your enemies before it explodes, just to name a few. These vastly different feeling weapons makes Ratchet's arsenal feel incredibly unique in this game from any other gun-based action game of the time, and really even now. These are your typical guns, but also not at all, which makes them fun to use and gets you excited your first time playing, just to see where Insomniac's gonna go next. Something I liked early on is when you reach Blackwater City and meet a guy who offers you a special gun for a high price, which you'll need to come back on a second playthrough to even afford, but it's worth it. You get the Rhino, or
rip ya a new one.
What did you just say to me?
a rapid-fire missile launcher that will obliterate anything in its path. Even as a kid, I thought stuff like this was really cool, and made me want to play the game again to discover anything else that would be locked away for a second playthrough. Outside the vast number of weapons associated with Ratchet and Clank, the series is also known for its use of the various gadgets to puzzle solve, help platform, or even stock up on ammo. The first game was no exception. The first puzzle tool in the series, the Trespasser, is still my all-time favourite of any of the infiltration gadgets in the franchise. Just a short puzzle to break up gameplay and actually get you to think. Some other useful gadgets also made their debut in the first entry, such as the PDA. Yeah, okay, I'm not gonna lie, this really does show the game's age. But yeah, the PDA lets you purchase ammo when you're low during a mission when there's no Gadgetron vendors nearby, but at the catch of the bulk price being marked up. It's quite handy during certain boss fights in the final level, but otherwise I'll just avoid using it on standard planet ventures, as there are normally ammo crates everywhere. Oh, also who could forget the metal detector? There is good reason it never returned. I mean, would you rather slowly pace around a planet and maybe get a couple hundred bolts, or would you rather pull out a gun and start shooting up some enemies and breaking some boxes to make thousands in seconds? There was also no lacking when it came to Clank. The helipack to give you a boost jump to help fling yourself forwards, a stretch jump to help you gain more air to climb platforms, and a glide to get you across long gaps. Then you have the thruster pack, which is basically just an upgraded helipack, except I swear you don't go as high when you do a stretch jump. The plus side of it though is that the boost jump is faster and launches you further, and it's also got a hover mode that allows you to strafe, something this game desperately needed and all future entries had by default. It also has this ground pound attack, which they only ever use like 3 times. Then you have the hydro pack. It lets you swim faster. Clank in this game has his own gameplay sections that are more puzzle related. In these levels you really get to see how big the planets you're travelling to really are, as everything seems so big when playing as Clank, which I really like as it makes you appreciate the level of detail the developers went to when making the game. Anyway, as Clank, you'll have to control little gadget bots to follow, attack, and open doors for you. While I do really appreciate these levels being here to break up gameplay and give a player a different perspective to look through, wow, these are easily some of the clunkiest parts of the game, and are also my least favourite moments whenever I replay it. I don't think they're bad though, just a little annoying at times. It's all down to the Gadgetbot AI not aging too well. Sometimes they get stuck, sometimes they die halfway through a puzzle and you have to go all the way back to get them, or sometimes they won't get out of your way. Clank also has sections where he becomes Giant Clank by using these big pads to enlarge himself. I've always enjoyed these from playing as a kid to now. Clank turns into a big mech with rockets and energy blasts and whatnot, as you cause mass amounts of destruction. I always liked the little touch of Ratchet being on Clank's back, after we spent the entire game seeing the complete opposite. It's all just really fun. I do feel though that ship combat sections can feel a bit dated in this game compared to future entries in the series, even other PS2 Ratchet games, so I try my best to get them done as fast as possible. They aren't bad or anything, just lacking in stage environments and vehicle controls and weaponry. Luckily there are only like 3 or 4 main ones you have to do, and you can skip one of them like I did here with a glitch.
Yes!
Also, because it was that era, there is some forced turret combat, and it's basically the same as any other turret combat you've ever played in a game. Not much else to say there. I do like the rail grinding segments though. Just fast-paced movement with you switching between rails, dodging bombs and avoiding trains. Just a fun adrenaline rush type thing which became a staple of the series for good reason. Oh, and how could I forget the hoverboard missions? Yeah, these suck. I know a lot of people like them, but they only exist here because skateboarding and extreme sports were massive at the time. Hoverboarding in this game consists of Ratchet going too slow until you hit a booster, having inconsistent airtime that results in you slamming into a wall, or having to learn the level perfectly to take every shortcut and booster. These aren't fun, and I never feel like I won because I did good, rather than I've memorized the perfect path from years of playing the game. I feel like I cheated and won because of that, and I feel new time players aren't going to have a good time either, especially as the second hoverboard race is a beginner's trap. Though on the plus side, beating the Gadgetron one grants you with an employee discount in 3 years' time, meaning by the time you get to Ratchet and Clank 3 you get cheap guns, and unlock the original Ratchet getup, aka the best Ratchet design without armor, which colors just pop super well, and overall looks less tacky and nice. That's just a thing with this whole game though. It looks great for a PS2 title, especially one that came out in 2002. It's bright and colourful. Darker planets can still have, well, a darker look to them, but the colours aren't muted or washed out. The atmosphere Insomniac made for these worlds to feel alive is done so well. These planets feel inhabited, which is what you want in a game about planets being destroyed. You see how many lives are going to be lost even if you only interact with 1 or 2 people on the planets. And the score that accompanies the whole game is just one of the greatest soundtracks for a game ever made. Ratchet and Clank doesn't have some generic grand orchestrated score that could be from just anything. Composer David Bergeau makes a unique soundtrack that mixes electronic music with rock and orchestra, and you're given some of the most memorable tracks in any game. The minute I hear a song from Ratchet and Clank, I can tell you it's from Ratchet and Clank. The songs fit with the levels so well too, like the Pokitaru resort music gives off a very tropical beach feel to it. I also like how Veldin and Pokitaru are just the same song remixed differently, which is perfect when you consider both of the levels are very Ratchet-centric. The voice cast is also really solid in this game, but something I always found funny about Ratchet 1 is that James Arnold Taylor isn't the voice of Ratchet. He's actually voiced by Mikey Kelly. It's just so bizarre to me that there was another Ratchet voice actor, as if I never looked into it, I don't think I would have ever noticed.
Is that all you can think about? Drek this and Drek that?
Being a game set in space, there's a sizable amount of planets to explore. Planets in this game are the levels and environments you'll be blasting through, and for a first entry they aren't too bad. In fact, I've got to say that Ratchet and Clank 1 has some of my favourite planets in the series. Given that most planets have 2 or 3 paths you can take from the start, making them not totally linear, means that if you don't want to tackle one area, you've always got another one to go to. The paths aren't always necessary either, and sometimes only lead to a collectible item, like the Persuader and Pokitaru. I want to go over my favourite planets from this game to just showcase why I like them, and how much effort went into this game to make every location feel so different from the rest, and what helped Ratchet and Clank be so distinct from other 3D platformers at the time. Kerwan and Rilgar, like I said earlier, were the two planets I played the most as I had them on the PS2 demo disc. I love Metropolis. It's honestly my favourite level in any Ratchet game. The two very different paths, the obstacle course leading to Helga for the swing shot, the path to Al that ends up becoming a wave of enemies, and then a fight on a moving train. It's just so good and memorable. Blackwater City too, the flooded section, the streets of the city, it's just a nice aesthetic to look at, and the type of enemies there in hazmat suits, as well as tanks, just make it feel unique. I've also always enjoyed Kalibos 3, as the Gadgetron site is just a cool location. I always love in games where you can see enemies you fight using the same weapons you use. So being on the planet where your guns are actually made, it's just fun fighting the test dummies that use your same arsenal. I also like how busy the place is. The city is basically one big shopping center for the creation of weapons. So just seeing constant ships flying by really adds to it, as well as all the incoming trains during the rail grinding section. It's just a solid planet. Eudora and Hoven are just two visually pleasing planets for me too. I enjoy snow levels when done right, and Hoven is just that. Eudora is another planet that I like the theme of. Just a big forest planet where you have to go around destroying the robot loggers. It's also one of the levels with 3 split paths to go on, which I enjoy the variety of. Ultanus is just a fun test of skill, as the game takes Clank away from you as he just attracts the lightning on the planet. It's a hard level at the end of the game, testing all your skill as Ratchet in combat and platforming, and I can really get behind that. And Veldin. Spoilers if you haven't played 2002's Ratchet and Clank. Look, if I don't look out for that one person, then who else is? Anyway, Veldin is one of my favourite finales in any game. Ratchet returns back to his home world, and also the very first mission of the game, which is now swarmed with Drek's henchmen, tanks, and rocket drones that can take you down in a couple seconds. The safest strategy on your first playthrough is to come in with a lot of bolts and the Devastator and snipe as many enemies as you can while restocking with the PDA. This level is really hard, but it's also fun because you're always on the edge. Then, when you reach the midpoint of the level, you get to fight Drek in his mech suit as Giant Clank. I always enjoyed that part because letting Clank get a few hits in on him is just so well deserved. But then the main Drek fight happens. You chase after him while trying to get as many hits in as he destroys the path to his machine, and I cheesed it because of the stupid PS3 port making the Pyrosita do too much damage. But nah, it's a fun final fight normally and feels super rewarding once you finally get to stop the Deplanetizer and defeat Drek. Honestly, just a great final boss with some great set pieces throughout the fight. Not to mention that tease they give you right as it all ends with all the new stuff you can do in challenge mode. That is something Insomniac are great with in their games. Secret unlocks and whatnot. This game features heaps upon just starting your second playthrough. Gold weapons, yeah, some are available in the first playthrough, are some of the core weapons from the game improved at the cost of buying with hidden gold bolts that can be collected in levels, with also a heap of regular bolts. It's worth it though, as they do so much more damage and become a lifesaver in challenge mode when everyone is a lot tougher. Another addition to challenge mode is the goodies menu on the pause screen. Here you can rewatch game cinematics and credits, look through the sketchbook for the game and watch a making of video, as well as toggling cheats, seeing some fun epilogues for the characters, and viewing the commercials for the game. A lot of these can be unlocked from either getting all the gold weapons or getting skill points. Think of skill points as just achievements before achievements. Just dumb little things you can do while playing, except in this game you're awarded with content rather than a new big number. That's Ratchet and Clank, a well-crafted PS2 platformer from its time that, after 19 years, is obviously showing some of its age. But for the most part, it still can stand itself up as being one of the more unique action platformers from its time, which I feel is where Insomniac garnered its success from. If this game didn't have such vast levels and themes, the brilliant OST, and various different guns, I don't think it would be remembered all that well. Insomniac Games is still continuing to make games in this series, which I think is enough to show how solid this first game was back then as it is now. In my opinion, I think it has held the test of time, and I still would recommend people play if they can look past the few flaws I felt were present. I also do hope that with the now released PlayStation 5, that this game can now have another port so that more people can experience this classic.